moment. And then I'll mute and tell you we're ready to go. Okay, so we are live on YouTube. So we'll call the meeting to order at 3:04.
I am live.
I'm sorry?
I was checking my pulse. Yes, live.
Okay. Holly
Here.
is here, and Rich Ravel is here. And Mayor Nihas is not. So we appreciate that. So the first order of business this year, Rich, welcome back. So our first order of business is to elect a chair and a vice chair.
Well, who's not here?
Yeah, Jesse's not here.
Yeah.
So we can
However-
always, the only thing, Rich, Jesse has missed quite a few meetings.
Okay,
So,
when I nominate Jan Tully as chair.
Okay. And I guess Jan, will you
I'll
accept
second
that?
it, and I'll name it, and I'll nominate Rich for vice chair.
Okay.
Now second that.
Okay. All right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations to both of you. I appreciate
It was
that.
a tough race.
It was a tough race. It was a tough race. Okay, so the plan for the annual signature duties, we switch those every 4 months, and I just defaulted by Jan because I was still going to her house, Rich. And
That's
so
what I think.
I'm going to do this until the end of April with her. And then do you want the summer or do you want the fall?
Summer's fine for me.
Okay, so I'll go to you and then I'll go to Jesse.
And just so you know, Rich, he actually delivers them to you.
Oh, yeah, I do deliver them to you. Yeah.
You know,
I used to do is meet Mike at the town hall.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Mike
Well,
and I-
Perfectly.
It's up to you, but what I normally do is like at Jan's, I just drop it on her front porch. And then whenever she gets to it, she just texts me or calls me and then I just pick it up.
Okay,
And it
whatever
works
you
out
do.
great.
We'll work it out.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to meet Mike always at Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just bring it to your house. I think it's
Yeah,
easier.
I don't drink Dunkin' Donuts, but he did, so it worked out well.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, I'm not a Dunkin' guy. Okay. Next is we got to approve the minutes. Rich, you weren't here for these minutes on the
Right.
29th of December, but if you would just abstain, then at least we can approve them.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is the minutes of December 29th, 2020. Jan, you
I'll
want
make a
to?
motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, and then Rich, you're second. And then all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
And then abstention. Okay, abstain from Rich. Great. Okay. Perfect. All right, so let me give you a financial update. So as of the end of, and I sent this whole thing to you, as at the end of January, we're at $255,051.74. And that's pretty accurate to date, except maybe a few little payroll things that haven't been paid for the month yet. But that's where we are, 255,051.74. I will circulate these, Rich, to you. Now, these I usually bring to you directly. Jan already signed it. I signed it once I generated it. I'll drop it off probably at your house and get your signature on it. I have one for December, but on that one, I really should get Paul Schweiker to sign that
Sure.
one. And I'll get, because he was on, and then I'll get Jesse to sign it. as
Okay,
that.
just drop it at town hall, Jeff, and then I'll sign it and I'll leave it right there in my mailbox for you.
Okay, perfect. I will do that. And we'll drop at the town hall. Okay. All right. I don't think you have to do anything. I don't know if you have to accept that. You guys sign it as we go each
Right.
month as we
Right.
reconcile, but I want to make sure you know where you are. Rich asked about the signature cards. I've talked to the local branch several times and they insisted that all of us had to come in at the same time on the same day, which is ridiculous. So I
Even
called,
with the pandemic,
yeah.
I mean,
Even
that
with
makes
the-
no sense.
It makes no sense. And all I want to do is add Rich's signature. And Jan, what I thought is, I'm not going to remove Paul Schweiker because he's likely to come back. I'm just going to leave you guys all on. And then who's
Okay.
ever not on doesn't sign that year.
Mhm.
So Melissa, because it's a two signature anyways, Melissa Vakanovic, who is with First Merit out of Youngstown under the government section, I reached out to her today and said, this is crazy. And she said, just give me the information. She'll prepare the form and only Rich needs to sign and I'll send it in. So I'll drop that off when I drop off the other stuff, Rich,
Okay,
and we'll get you on the accounts.
So Rich doesn't meet you at Huntington?
No, but I didn't want to meet all of us at Huntington because I thought that would be incredibly crazy. I mean, how's that going to work?
But it does make sense. It does make sense because traditionally I'm off for a year, but then I'm usually the one that comes back on. Same with Rich. He's off for a year, but he's usually the one that comes back on. So, yeah.
So I just want to leave you guys on all the time. And that way, if we get Rich on, we're good. And then we just have to do it, change as we go. So website is getting some views and I've been posting a few things to Facebook and, people are reacting. I know the two funeral homes are on it and like it, and it's a place to easily find the fees, easily find deeds, all that stuff. I'm completely current on deeds, except Dan sold 4 more graves today, so I'll have 4 more deeds to do. I am thinking with regard to these deeds, because I run around and get everybody's signature, would you guys think, are you opposed to doing like an electronic signature? Like if I just scanned it and set it up as an Acrobat file and we just had our signatures put on electronically, or do you think we should just do hard signatures like we've always done? I mean, I'm okay with it.
I
don't
think we
it's
should,
different. Oh, I got it.
I think we should continue what we've been doing.
Okay, so I'll continue to do that with regular signatures.
Yeah. I just think it just is, I don't know the right word to say, but it's an appropriate thing to do in recognition of the people who purchased it. Where electronic kind of like sometimes seems like you really don't care because you signed it electronically, you didn't read it. How do I know you even had it? So
Yeah. And
I'm old fashioned.
well, can I tell you something? I'm fine with it. And I understand. I didn't know how you guys viewed it. I think I muted myself and I
You
didn't.
did.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Did you see the one about how these meetings are like seances?
no.
Are you there, Jeff? Jeff, are you there?
It's true. How many
Come
times?
to us, Jeff. Come to us
Yeah.
now.
How many times do you coach somebody through? I actually coach somebody on the other side, like, okay, go here, do this, do that.
Yeah. See, normally what I do in our council meetings, I don't hit mute because I'm afraid I'll never remember to bring it back.
Right. Yeah.
So you're over there going.
Did you see the school board who started talking about people in the town and then it was live? I mean, that's crazy too. So
is the cat going to make an appearance? That's the other one. The animals suddenly make appearances on the screen. So
yeah. Well, I am excited about the website. Here it is. Yeah, it is really cool. And they like it, I think, from the other from the 2 funeral homes and who we are. I put your information on there. I don't have a picture of Jesse, but Jan, there's yours and a write-up and Rich. And then this is a link right to your email if somebody wants to do that. I also put in all the deeds. So our minutes go back to 1983. Wow. That's a lot.
Well, I went on it for a little bit to play, but I didn't get down in. I have told at our last council meeting, told the public.
Good.
That it's a great way, if you have somebody you think is buried there, it's a great way to check it out. So
good.
I've gotten positive feedback.
Well, this is like one of the deeds. So this is the oldest deed I have scanned in. It's from April of 81. You can see it right there. And then these all go in order. So it's literally everything in our book. So I briefly, I'll stop the screen share. I briefly talked to you guys, I think, or I sent you an email about it. I'd like to buy a book scanner. Looks like this. It's $525. I think we could, Rich, the one at your township isn't the same.
Right, correct.
But what this will do is it's a light and basically a foot pedal, and you can flip the book, and then the book scans right in. It has little clips that will not show up on the scans, and it will electronically flatten the page, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So we have a lot of old books that are bound where the cemetery deeds go like this. So I can push them down, but this will actually flatten the text. And then we don't ever have to go back to the books. So it'll be a way to, I have 6 books to go back to the 1800s. And then remember, before about 1890, apparently those records are the ones that were destroyed somewhere in the 1800s. There was a flood or a fire. Do you guys know the details of that?
I think Schweiker was around by that time, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, Schweiker was around. Yeah, sure. There was either a flood or a fire, and it destroyed the records. And so that's the old section. So we have maps of that old section,
Mhm.
and we also have something that's really cool. We have interment records. So I have those books that will show who was interred where. So what I want to do is get all these scans in and eventually cross-link those to see if I can figure out who's in every grave and which grave is occupied in that old section. I think we can do it.
That'd
Hey,
be
and
interesting.
the intern maps, does it give dates?
It shows, I don't know if it shows dates yet. It shows the name and like the family name.
Okay,
But we don't know necessarily everybody in each one of those graves
right.
because those original records were somehow lost, either a fire or a flood. This will also allow me to do optical character recognition. So as I scan those books in, somebody should be able to search it, but it does not read text. So some of those old deeds from the 1800s are handwritten, but then there's some printed text on them.
Yeah.
So it'll at least be a way to find the stuff in it. So I just want to make sure you guys are good. I'm going to move forward and get this. So
What's that cost, Jeff?
$525.
Well, that's reasonable.
I think it is too. And the software, it seems to be the best one of their brand. They have others. They have like a whole lineup of like from about 200 up.
Mhm.
But this one has all the flattening, works on a Mac. I have a Mac. It also will allow Dan to have one there that he can just scan big documents, whatever we need to do. And then I thought if any community, I'll make this available to any other communities because you guys might have books
Yeah, we
that
do.
you
I
have
was
to
just
scan.
thinking the same thing. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
definitely do something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
we got a lot of old books.
Yeah,
In fact,
me-
just looking at one where someone wanted us to go back like 100 years into the 1800s, actually 200 years. So yeah, that would be good.
And then the last thing we need to do is, I mean, I think our records are pretty secure because we have a file cabinet inside the office, but I'd like to figure out what to do with those permanently. Like once we get these scanned, we probably should take those historical ones and somehow secure them, whether the library would hold them or something. It's probably not the greatest to have them in the office. But there's interment records, there's records of receipts, there's all kinds of old records in there. We also have index cards in the drawer. And I don't know exactly how this worked, but it's kind of like the Rolodex of the cemetery. And that must have been up through like the 70s. I don't know when they used it, but it has everybody and what grave and all that. So we probably should scan all those too. And then I can start to maybe pare that stuff down. Dan and I are going to have a mission to clean up that office because it's kind of depressing. It's old and it was the crypt. And Mike wanted to change the flooring. So he had them take out a piece of tile, and that tile happens to be like in the place you walk in the most. So I'd like to replace that tile and then just put a carpet down and we're going to paint the walls. We're going to change the light fixture and just make it a little more visually appealing and kind of pare down the records in there so it looks more presentable, because that's where a customer comes to look at graves and maps. All our maps are now electronic. While we have a hard copy, there's electronic ones. I have nice chairs in my office that I used to use in a conference room. I'm going to give them to Dan. We're going to put them in there. So it'll look like a much better place than it is now.
It hasn't had any love. Rich can tell you, we've talked about, we haven't given any love to that. And the floor cracked.
Yeah.
You know, but we made sure we didn't have leakage, but at the same time, we've really never done anything in that building for years.
Yeah, Dan's willing to paint it, so we're just gonna buy probably a gallon of paint or two, and we're done. Paint it. There are records in the ceiling too. There's like an attic in there, and there's a little hole, and I guess he put up a bunch of records, so he's gonna pull down those records. They're old financial records. I'm just gonna scan them, and then we'll make a determination on what records if we want to get rid of some of those records, and then go through the process to pare down some of those records, but get them out of the ceiling and clean up that space and clean up the front of that office too by Memorial Day, because it almost looks depressing from the outside too.
You definitely would be better doing like a nature stone on the floor.
I don't really know, Rich, because what happened is they put a tile down. It looks like maybe in the 20s. It's a piece,
Right.
It's different tiles, but that was a floor that I don't know if it's stone, but the floor goes like this. You can feel the difference in the floor. I mean, it probably changes grade 2 inches across that place. And it's not just 2 inches like this, it's 2 inches and it goes like this, and then it goes down.
Sure.
So I think the easiest thing to do is just get those tiles patched in, clean the floor. It really needs a good scrubbing, paint the walls, and put, an 8x10 carpet in there for a couple $100. Put an 8x10 carpet, put the table back, take the desk and repaint it outside, bring it back in, cleaned up, and clean it all up in there a bit. Dan's we have the phone and everything through Spectrum. We're down to like an $80 bill. I paid $100 because I still had to pay an extra 100 this month when it was installed. But now the bill's going to drop down to $80 from 180. And he has pretty good reception in the office or in the garage, but not as perfect because he's got metal, and we have those stone walls. So I don't know if that's holding it back. But I thought maybe I could get some of that stuff up in the ceiling, and then it would probably go through the roof easier than it goes through the rocks, stone. And then that'll clean that up. Medical Mutual, I'm pretty much daily updating them on what to do. We are good. Our rate's gonna drop to $17.83 per month for family. We should save about $8,400. Alta, the family dental plan, it's $108. They're giving me a little bit of problems, but they're working through the process to get him on that. The rate would be $108.59 a month, and I should have that resolved within the next couple of weeks. And the other plan, I might have to have Jan sign some papers on that when it comes through. Last item is landscaping, and I sent you a copy of the contract. The contract would go up by $1,500 if we went with Tucker again. So let me go over what we did last year. So Rich, last year we went out for bid, and I talked to every landscaper I could find. So the ones who submitted bids were Turfscape, who we used at that time, Wolfscape, and Tucker. I can go through them. I probably sent to another 4 to 6. I take that back. There's one more, Rossi. Rossi's on Valley View down the road in Sagamore Hills. So Turfscape, when you figure out what I paid in 20 for the 19 bills. So after Mike died, we had more bills related to Turfscape. We probably spent about over $50,000 on Turfscape for the year of 19 with all the cleanups.
Yep.
He gave me a bid of 41,000 plus all the fertilizer, herbicide. There were additional cleanup stuff in there. Took it to about 50 grand. Wolfscape bid 48,998, and Tucker billed 37,250 bucks.
Is that all
Plus
inclusive?
yeah, it was a lot different, lot cheaper.
Okay, but it was inclusive of the, the
Everything.
fertilizers and everything?
Yep, it's all the
Okay.
fertilizers and everything. Now, we had a couple of hiccups last year, Jan will know, you might remember. It was a weird spring and people planted their flowers for Memorial Day and then they spread the herbicide. And so they killed a bunch of flowers, including the geraniums that the association had planted. So that was a mess. But ultimately, they refunded the entire cost of those to the association. So the association now has the money for this year to replant geraniums, based on their endowment and stuff.
Okay.
So the plan this year is we're gonna put up a sign that says, hey, we're gonna be spraying and killing all the weeds and don't plant anything here. And then he'll spray about 2 weeks before Memorial Day, leaving people plenty of time to plant and not have delicate plants die. We just had a lot of complaints of plants dying. So his bid this year goes up by $1,500 all inclusive. So that's $38,750. Last year, his bid was $37,250. My recommendation is we accept this. So we're clear, when he spreads mulch, there is an additional charge for that. It's $58 a yard. And we spent another seven, I think we spent about $1,000 more with him last year doing mulch and just some odds and ends of things that we had him do. So the bill was just a little bit more, but still well below the other bidders.
Okay.
So I'd like to get a motion to approve the landscaping contract with Tucker at $38,750 for this season.
I'll introduce.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All in favor
Aye.
and opposed? Okay. So the motion carries. Let me cover a couple more things and then I'll open it up to any of you. Tree work. Nick's took down that terrible tree that was in terrible shape. And got it all out of there at a really reasonable price and time. It is completely done, all cleaned up. It was an old cherry tree. That work is completed. We probably don't have any more trees to deal with except one. So it's towards section 3, kind of across the street. There is a large tree there that has another one of these cables, much like that cherry tree. That cherry tree in the old section had a cable ridge about 30 feet in the air that tied one trunk to another branch. So the cable was holding the tree together, and then that was dead. This huge section was dead. So it's an art to be able to take it down when it has a cable holding it up. But within the next few years, we're probably going to have to deal with that one other tree. Although the tree is healthy, at some point that tree is going to have a problem. So I alert you to that. But otherwise, we're clean. Everything else cleaned up. And he cleaned up all the other problems we had from the storms. And the last thing is the painting of the fence, which drives me crazy. So I got the front section done. It looks like it's weathered really well over the winter. All we have to do is put the top coat of black on it. I'm going to talk to some people that might be able to help us so we can get it all done by Memorial Day. So when the weather breaks, we're good to go. But we certainly can clean up the front section and the entry prior to Memorial Day. All the decorations are down. I think everything looks in pretty good shape. Dan had some difficult times on Friday digging a grave up on the hill in the northeast section. You know, that little hill that comes out to Old AEC. They got stuck 3 times. and eventually just put a piece of plywood after the grave was, after the casket was lowered and everything, and didn't fill it all in. He's going to do that later this week because it was pretty much a danger.
Okay.
Other than that, I think everything is moving really well and we're in pretty good shape. How about you guys? Have you heard anything?
No, I've heard nothing on my end. I don't know about you, Dan.
Nope.
Okay.
You know,
One
like
more-
I said, I've told people about the website. I think you're going to get more positive feedback. I'm going to mention it again at this Thursday's meeting, you know, that we're going to proceed going even further back.
Yeah, that's great. And then one more that will help you. I went and took our website and identified two email addresses. It's a couple of dollars a month for each of us to do that. So I have an email that'll come to me directly related to Northfield. You have to spell this all out, right? Northfield Macedonia Cemetery.com. So Dan and I are Jeff at Northfield Macedonia Cemetery.com, and Dan is Dan at Northfield Macedonia Cemetery.com. So it is like, in my mind, it's really easy, right? You just spell out the entire name of our entity.com. And then it's either Jeff or Dan. And that email comes to us both. And then all the emails filter kind of through a master account, if that makes sense. So if I leave or Dan leaves, we have a way of tracking all those emails. So we're getting rid of all these crazy, he had a Gmail account. I formed the Gmail account because I didn't know what else to do. So all the email is going to come through Northfield Macedonia Cemetery. And we started that this week. So
Okay.
it's easy. If you want him, it's Dan. If you want me, it's Jeff. So pretty simple.
That's a good thing too, because you never know in the future.
Yeah.
And we just did that with our clerk's office. We're going to make a generic email in case you're on vacation. Who else can read your email that comes to the clerk? Nobody until they come back. So this way things can be read, which is a good thing.
Well, I can log into his, and obviously anybody else could log into mine. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to name it like fiscal at or treasurer at Northfield Macedonia Cemetery, and then what would I call him? And then I thought, the easiest thing is just put our names on it, and then we can take that and redirect it anywhere we want.
Right.
So I can make his email go anywhere, duplicate copies, all that stuff. So at least we have a email that makes sense, because up until now, we had all kinds of haphazard emails. So that's in good shape. And, overall, I think we're doing pretty well. And quite a few graves are starting to sell. I did a bit of research on, what do we do with some of these graves that really haven't been active for a number of years? And we can't, there's some attorney general opinions that say we can't just try to take action to say, well, we're just going to take those back. We have to try to find those owners. So once we get through scanning all this stuff, I want to go through the maps and figure out where there's spaces that, people haven't used for 100 years, literally, and try to figure out how we might secure those graves.
Yeah, there could be graves that I always think of. My grandma may have bought one, never told us,
Really?
So that she had her brother, her grandpa, and her sister, but maybe there's a grave that they didn't use one of those three. One of the four, I don't know. So
You would be the heir. So
Yeah.
we could track that down. But I think what I'd like to do is start to figure that out and
Yeah.
try to get these graves back into use if they're out there, and what that might take. But we've got to figure out who's in the old section, because I guess there is a section there that's pretty empty. And then we had a person, Dan told me a couple of years ago, just show up and claim that he was a relative of some section over there. And obviously those are sections we don't have a lot of records on. But he came back a couple of times, but then he kind of dropped it. So we'll sort through that. But overall, I think we're in pretty good shape. Dan loves the new plow. It's working really well. It's about a 9-foot plow, Rich, on that little machine, that little Toro. And so he has a little dump truck on the back of the Toro, and then we have a 9-foot blade. He's kind of using that blade 3 times. He's pushing the center and then pushing both sides. And it seems to work great. It's got a little cover and a little window. It's still open, but at least he can get in and out. And then what I'd like to do is probably put that truck online along with that tractor. He cleaned up the tractor. And so towards spring, you guys okay if I put the tractor and the truck on Gov Deals?
No, yeah, fine. I was gonna suggest that's what we need to do.
Yeah, we don't need them. And they're just taking up space. And now that we have a plow, we're in great shape. So very reliable. I could run the plow, which is good.
We put chains on it or the wheels or?
No, what they did is they gave us some tires with a lot of tread in them, and it seems to be fine. You know, they're pretty heavy duty. We tried to figure out chains, but the back tire has a very tight wheel well, but this tire has a lot of treads on it. So what we did is Dan flipped them out and put those on it, and it's fine. Whether we leave those year round, we're not sure. So we'll see what they look like in the spring. And if they're making lots of ruts, we'll go back to the other one. But they're probably just fine to leave on kind of year round, or you can flip those out for just kind of summer tires. And then I am working with the county engineer. Schweikert had this idea of, that is a public road. I don't know if you know that, Rich. We've had this conversation. No. The cemetery is a public road, which means it's a District 8 application potentially for a grant to repave it.
Interesting.
So they're going to run those numbers for us and get it. And then we talked about taking that to each of the communities and getting all the communities to support it. And then using your contribution towards that this year. And then everybody's a participant. And then we could use that as matching funds. And maybe we could get a grant and repave the whole cemetery drive.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Are you going to have the annual meeting in May, right?
Yeah.
So would you have that before then, so we could discuss it there? That would be a perfect, because we're all together.
Yeah, circulate it by early May, so everybody has it, and then legislatively, they just need to pass it. So we could put it in the application that these are our 4 partners. And then, the estimate, the rough estimate was maybe like $80,000 to $90,000 would repave the whole thing, which would be awesome. And then we'd have a brand new driveway in there. And we have the resources to do the match if we could get the grant. And then maybe we get 50% of it or something. So engineer is going to run the numbers as this melts and look at it and give us a engineer's estimate so we can move forward. And like the standard, which doesn't really have to be as thick as they would on a road. Okay.
Okay, I have one question for something else. Do we have to reappoint you as because I think that expired.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know.
I'm sorry, it expired. Does that sound familiar? That commercial, but didn't it expire at the end of the year?
Yeah, it did, and I didn't even realize that, Jan. Thank you very much. So you would have to renew me for the year. Is that okay?
Can we do it for more than a year?
I'm not sure. Why don't we do it for the year now, and then I'll explore whether that you're allowed to do that. I think as the trustees, I think you do it on an annual basis. That's how it's typically been. Appreciate that.
Yeah, because we hadn't done it annually. I don't remember doing it annually for Mike or his predecessor, but I'll make a motion that we reappoint Mr. Snell as what's your official title?
I don't know. I've been calling myself fiscal officer because that's what the townships are. So.
Okay. For the cemetery, effective 1/1/2021 and expires 12/31/21.
I wouldn't expire it on 12/31. I would let it go to the first meeting that you're gonna have in
Okay,
January or whatever.
so we could put it into January of 20, or just right, the first meeting of
The first meeting of-
2022, right?
Right.
Okay,
Okay, I'll do that.
And I'll second that.
Thanks. All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Hey, thanks. I didn't even realize that, Jan, and I really appreciate you picking that up. Because there's lots of loose ends and I'm just not used to the flow of this on an annual basis. So appreciate that. I think things are running well. Dan's doing well. And, we're starting to kind of tackle some things, clean up the office, clean up the records. I love the website. I'm excited about that being there. And I hope to be able to share more on Facebook. We have a Facebook account and I'm going to start posting things, pictures and, Memorial Day and all the different events. We can start posting things on there. So I think it'll be a good community website. And then the last thing is, I think some of the communities are able to you can log on and fill out a form or an application or purchase a grave. All our price lists are up there too. And I'd like to be able to put in the form. So if somebody wants to buy a grave, they could actually buy it online if they wanted to.
or they could start the application, because I'm sure they want to come see exactly where it's going to be. So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's moving into the 21st century.
It is. We're getting there slowly, but
Yeah.
surely. So, do you guys have anything? I would say my goals over the next 3 months are make sure we got that gate done and the entryway and get that fence done as much as possible, hopefully all by Memorial Day. Make sure that everything gets, there's no screw ups on the fertilizer situation and the herbicide.
Yeah.
That was a complete disaster last year. And Tucker's willing to do that. I don't think there'll be a problem. Dan had a little concern about Tucker because we have some old graves in the old section where a couple of them broke. Some of these graves broke. These stones are made of marble, and marble is extremely soft as a stone to begin with. And if you just tap it the right way after 100 years, it just crumbles. There are some people who do restorations on this. Some of these stones are not even readable. So we'll just have to figure out what to do with those stones. We left some of those stones in place, but I don't know how valuable that is. I think we should take a picture and identify it and maybe take the marble and stack it somewhere, because it really wasn't necessarily Tucker's fault, but they do have to slow down as they cut to try to be careful. But it's really tough to cut that cemetery. I'm glad I'm not doing it. When the height of the season, it's 2 guys for 2 days, or pretty close to 2 days. That's a lot of manpower to cut it.
On the stones, can we just put a marker on those if we do something with the stones? Maybe just identifying the grave, some type of small marker in ground, laid on top of the ground.
Yeah. So what does that mean? In other words, is that just a number and a location so we can identify, that's in, we identify section, and then there's a plot with like 12 graves within that plot, and then a grave within there. So you get, old section, and then that one section of plots, whatever that number is. Do you want to do a number? Do you want to try to identify the person? And then I can figure out a cost for what that would
maybe
be.
I think a number and identify a person, even if I would say identify a person. It doesn't have to be as big. It could be a little smaller one, and just like maybe a 12 by 12 or something we can put there and replace it, because obviously a lot of those stones are going to deteriorate over the years.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and I think a person's name is, relevant because when 100 years from now,
Right.
you think of yourself, wouldn't you? Like somebody comes over and said, "Oh, number 52." Well, who the heck is 52?
Right.
But yeah.
If
And
we
I
can
think
get
a lot of
everything-
you got to check with the older cemeteries down in Cleveland, see what they do,
Okay.
like you. And yeah.
And then what I want to tell you is some of these graves have multiple people in them, children,
Yes. I
family
saw that with
members.
the children, and yes.
So we'll try to figure that out. I have figured out one thing. If you ever want a stone in a cemetery, you probably don't want it to be a flat stone because it tends to be the stones that are written this way that last the longest. Because otherwise the weather seems to deteriorate them, and you don't want it made of marble because that's why they carve marble, because it just deteriorates. Very difficult to read some of them. We could take some of these stones that have fallen apart too and do almost a rubbing of them, put the pieces together and do a rubbing and take a picture and make that picture available on our website.
Mm.
And that would be a way for someone to see what stone, the condition of the stone we had that we knew of, and try to figure out some way to preserve it. I think it's a great idea, Rich, to
Mhm.
identify those stones in some way.
Yeah, I don't know what it might take, so we'll have to find it out what the best way is.
Yeah. A guy stopped in last year and was willing to talk about restoring them, and he had done that. He's the same guy who contacted Dan this yesterday, or I think today. He's from Richfield. He had done some restorations in Richfield.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
but
another old cemetery out there.
oh yeah, and then what they did is they took the stones and drilled into them, and then stacked it back up, and then glued them together, and then tried to put them back up. I don't know whether
Well,
that's
that might be a good person to also talk to about what if we didn't want to restore the old stone? Is there another way for monument recognition for the people that are here? We have that one that talks about they're the pioneers of up here. So you don't want to lose that history at all.
I agree.
Maybe we could get the history class at the high school.
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't that be an interesting thing for them to learn more about this community and who came up in here? And I mean, those are the kinds of things I wished I'd heard about.
Yeah, there is another cool thing on here too. On the website, there is a marker link. It's kind of like in the middle of the page. And if you hit that, there is a third-party site called Find a Grave. And they
Yep.
have gone through various cemeteries, including ours, and identified some of those graves and then written a story or found the death notice and linked it to the stone. And then somebody actually voluntarily took a picture of the grave, and then that's linked to their site. And eventually what we should do is probably do the same with the ones that are missing and start linking them all. And then literally all the information is there. And if you are investigating the cemetery, you're able to see the grave, the person, the death notice, and it kind of links everything together. And then what the area looks like right now. And then that third-party site called Find a Grave, if you want to see a grave in some other city, you can post something there. And if someone is on that site and lives close by, they'll go out and take a picture and then share it on there. And then you can find your relatives, even if you're in California, you can have somebody take a picture of that grave. So it's pretty amazing. If you put it in there and put in Okasik, you'll get Oliver and all kinds of people who are linked together there that I know in the cemetery. And then you
Especially
actually see their
so many
stones.
people are interested now in their heritage. So I've been trying to do Crown Hill because when I say to Greg, your mom and dad, he goes, well, they're by the lake. I go, there are two lakes. Which one was it? I remember standing by the lake. So I'm trying to use Find a Grave to find his parents so we can make sure it's saying, now I know where my parents are, but that's because we used to go there all the time for grandma and grandpa. But yeah, it's just great because more and more people are trying to figure out where are the historical people and their families, where are they buried? How can I visit them? What can I see? So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
I think, Rich, you got a great idea of how we could make this still remember the people that are in there, even if we can't save their stone.
Mhm. And we could take a picture of the stone and what we have and then post that, and that would link to that grave easily. And another way to find it virtually, that you could find the information.
What are the stones made of in Arlington? They
I-
don't seem to ever, or the National Cemetery south of us.
Yeah, I
Those
don't,
seem to keep their originality and their depth. I mean, they look really pretty good.
yeah. I don't know, Jan. I think the marble deteriorates and it might be acid rain. In other words, we may be in a geographical place that, we get the acid rain that maybe other areas like Washington don't, but
Well,
it is,
the other one's in Richmond, I think, is where Greg and I went down there, and actually looks pretty amazing. The National Cemetery. It's the Ohio one. So
yeah.
we need to find out, because whatever they use,
I think
it
those
lasts.
are granite stones. I know those are granite stones because my father-in-law is there. And those are made of granite, and granite lasts longer. That's why they don't carve granite typically. They carve um, m- um, why am I blank? Marble, because
Marble.
marble's softer. It's a softer stone. So I will find out about the stones. But let me see if I can figure out a way to memorialize those stones and take some pictures of them
Mhm.
and put it online at least in that way, and then figure out what it would cost to put in markers of some kind. And then that one tree came out. We typically put in another tree when one tree came out. So I was gonna, in the spring, talk to somebody like Greg Need about what it would take to bring a new tree in. The tree that we took out was a cherry. A long, long time ago, that section of our cemetery was called Cherry Hill. So I assume that that was the hill of the Cherry Hill, but we had multiple trees. So maybe we can restore it with a small cherry tree of some kind, and then let that grow way beyond us, beyond our time here, and at least replace that space. Last year, the mayor was on one of the calls and did say he wanted, if we take a tree out, he wants to put a tree in. So I'll get a tree in there once we know, once spring comes around. And I think that's really it. We're gonna try to work on the office and clean that up on Memorial Day and get that fence done. And then everything else, I will just keep plugging away. And I haven't had, knock on wood, any problems with the water line. So I'm praying I don't have problems with the water line.
Cool.
Okay. Anything
Sounds
else?
good. No, I think that's it. Nice job. You did a nice job on it, Jeff.
Okay, no problem. Thanks. If you guys need anything, let me know. Thanks so much, Jan. I drop things off at your house all the time and you're so responsive. I
I
really
know.
appreciate it. And Rich, I will get you your stuff once I get the information about signing the signature card.
No problem. I'll get it back to you right away.
Okay, and there's some more graves that'll be floating, or more sales, and I'll get those out. And we're
Okay.
good.
We need a
I'll make
motion
a
for
motion
adjournment.
to adjourn.
Sure. I think you
I make
both adjourned. So which one you want? Who was the?
Jen,
We'll
you-
make Rich the adjourn and I'll second it.
Okay. All
Jen,
right.
And we both say aye as usual. Well,
Yeah.
maybe Rich is gonna say, what if he says no?
Yeah.
Hmm, we can't
we're
adjourn.
going out in a circle. Yes, I agree.
All right. So all in favor of adjourning at 3.